Hello, this is the Fight Nerd, Matthew Kaplowitz. On Wednesday, November 12, 2008, the New York State Athletic Commission held a roundtable discussion on mixed martial arts and discussed Bill A11458A, which would legalize the sport in New York State. Participants included Assemblymen Stephen Engelbright, Mark Ratner, Jeff Blatnick, Edwin Torres and Melvina Lathan of the New York State Athletic Commission, James Leary of the New York Department of Safety, and Jamie Springer and Perry Chen from HRNA Advisors, who presented some economic info to the Assembly. Topics included an intro to what is MMA, the safety of the fighters, impact on the local and state economies, and understanding the rules. Here's some video footage from the hearing.
I'm a regulator at heart. I was the executive director of the Nevada State Athletic Commission from 1992 to 2006. And Mr. Torres, I'm a big boxing fan and love boxing as much as anybody here. In the year 2006, I had the opportunity to, well, let me say first of all that one of our former commissioners in Nevada was one of the owners of the Ultimate Fighting Championship. His name is Lorenzo Fertitta. And he came to me in the year 2006 and said, I have a good opportunity for you as a regulator to help us grow the sport. So in May of 2006, I did come over to help around the country talk about what's going on with MMA. And like some people here in the room, in the late 90s, 1996, 1997, I didn't know much about MMA. I was on a panel with Senator McCain and I on one side, former owners of the USC, a man by the name of Mr. Meyerowitz, and a fighter named Ken Shamrock. And I said at that time, the advertising that was going on with the UFC said, no holds barred, anything goes, no rules. I said on national TV, we can never have that in Nevada. You cannot have a sport that you cannot regulate. So in the year 2000, in Trenton, New Jersey, with under the auspices of the New Jersey State Athletic Commission, and Mr. Blatnick, who was there, came up with what we call the unified rules of mixed martial arts and formalized that. Once we were able to have rules, then the state of Nevada was able to approve the sport of mixed martial arts, which I think we did in February of 2001, and had our first event in September of 2001. We've had approximately 100 fights in Nevada since then, with about 8 to 9 fights per card. So there's about 900 individual bouts. The most serious injury we've had documented was a broken arm by one of our fighters. His arm broke. We had the cuts and contusions. That was the most serious injury. Around the world, to the best of our knowledge, in regulated events, there has been one fatality that happened in Texas last year. We're not positive. There wasn't a pre-existing condition, so we'll never know about that. Unfortunately, in my boxing history as a regulator, I have had some people pass away. So I'm very much safety oriented and health. And that's what I want to start with by saying. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff, your name was evoked. Would you like to be the next to speak?
What Mr. Ratner has said is the truth. In fact, the original owners of the UFC, how I got involved, I was originally an announcer. I was asked because I was on the President's Council for Physical Fitness and Sport, and I felt it was a sport. There were a lot of wrestlers getting involved, so they wanted me involved because I knew them. But when New York voted to make it illegal, the act that we're looking to overturn here, that is when I was asked by then owners, Bob Meyerowitz and SEG, to start writing up rules. And I became involved with bout conduct, rounds, going to California, trying to help them do it. And we eventually evolved, and we even had to continually make amendments based on fighters' choices of conduct during bouts. And so the process took 4 or 5 years before we got to the point where in '99 New Jersey actually sanctioned the old owner, Bob Meyerowitz and SEG, and the UFC into New Jersey. And then the following year we were purchased by Zupa and Lorenzo and Frank Fertitta. the rules have not changed at all since the commissions have been involved. The commissions regulate, and that's their job. When you let a promoter regulate, I believe things can fall through the cracks. And that's why and even Bob Meyerowitz was staunch on, we need to get state approval. We need to get the state commissions involved with MMA. And I agree. One of the biggest things was, it's a blood sport, no holds barred. There are no rules. There's always been rules. There have always been rules. But there was no name for the sport. Everyone came from a single discipline. And it was sort of discipline against discipline. The sport evolved and morphed, as we said, and became mixed martial arts. And that is the name of the sport, which we tried to push to all commissions, to a lot of the media, so that we could rally around one thing and not have confusion as to, is it reality fighting, is it ultimate fighting, is it whatever you want to call it, no holds barred. We wanted it a name so that it could be identified, and mixed martial arts really was the answer, simply because they're taking all the legal practices within single disciplines and putting them all into the ring at the same time.
You're saying that all the techniques are already out there?
Yeah, these techniques
It's
are already
just
out
a,
there, and a lot, there's Muay Thai rules.
Hybridization of...
That's correct, and that's really when the fighters changed. Instead of it being I'm a wrestler and I use wrestling skill, well, I have a wrestling background, but I'm going to add all these other skills. And all of the fighters now have trained, or cross-trained, as we say, to prepare themselves for this. And the way it's set up today, I think, is as safe as you can basically make it. With the pre-screening, the medical tests that they do, and we did them even with SEG. In fact, they tested for AIDS long before Tommy Morrison ever came out in boxing and said he had it. Now boxing tests for it, and it was simply because we knew that grappling and fighting and stand-up fighting do not normally mix. Usually you have strikers, stand-up skills, they do their fights, and grappling skills, they do theirs, but never did you have a situation where grappling and striking got put together. And to make this the simplest way I can, I'm a boxing fan too. Mike Tyson started his career in Albany, New York. You can see him at the Egg, you can see him at RPI, and I watched many of those fights. And I think it was 16 knockouts in a row. I'm not 100% sure, but that's how he started it out. All this buzz, we were there, and everybody would say he's the baddest guy on the planet. And I would say he's the baddest boxer on the planet, because what happens if he goes up to someone that wants to bring him down to the ground, and people have no concept of what a ground fight is. I'm a wrestler, and I'd like to think I have some smarts in that I'd be foolish to stand up and try to trade punches with a boxer. I'm not skilled in boxing. I am skilled in taking people off their feet, and that is what I would approach. So the biggest argument I heard, I went back with Paul Feeney from John McCain's office, back and forth with it, was, how can you get a guy that's down on the ground? Well, that's my world. I live on the ground. I would much rather be down there than standing against a Mike Tyson, because I'm not trained to do that. And so I think there was some misconceptions as to what hitting.
Very interesting, these fiscal matters, the fiscal considerations. But it appears to me that pivot here, okay, the linchpin is the safety factor. Is there anyone here who can, for my benefit, because I saw the Calzaghe fight company of Commissioner Latham. It was a bloody event this past Saturday. Is there anyone here who can synthesize for us, certainly for me, what the proposed rules and regulations will be in the circle of this, what they call it, cage fighting or combat or what have you? What are the basic rules and regulations? That's what I'd like to know. Yes, ma'am.
The full audio of the 2-hour assembly will be available on thefightnerd.com very soon, so stay tuned for that and much more exclusive content on the only mixed martial arts site not afraid to hit someone wearing glasses.